Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. My guests today are Anthony Masiello and Dr. Kim Scheuer from Love Life Telehealth, and they're going to be talking about hypertension. Please welcome them both to the show. We get a twofer today. Yay.
Hey, thank you, AJ. Thank you for having us today. Yeah, we're
Yes,
super excited to be here.
it's my pleasure. You've both been on the show separately, but never together.
Never together, and I think I was on last 3 years ago or so. So it's been a little while.
Well, I'm very happy to see you've kept all your weight off. You lost an
Yes.
enormous amount of weight and you've kept it off.
Yep, yep. I'm happy about that too.
Yeah. Were you ever worried that it might come back and sneak back?
Often, it's not the kind of worry where I'm like scared or actively thinking about it, but it's the kind of worry where it kind of lingers and it keeps me in check, which is good. So I not so much that I'm obsessed about it, but I'm very aware. Yeah.
That's good. So no,
That's what happens inside my mind.
yeah. So no major slips and slides, or is what I like to call snackcidents.
No, not at all. And my habits are just so solid that I don't, I just do what I do and I really thoroughly enjoy it. So it's not like I have to worry about, like kind of going on or off and things like that. It's easy peasy that way. And it's just kind of lingering in the back of my mind, like, I wonder if I would ever lose, regain my weight again. Because I see a lot of people, it does happen too. I see a
Well,
lot of people maintain it as well.
if you keep doing what you do, you're not gonna. I love that idea of your habits in place. Same here. We don't think about it anymore. We just eat what we eat and we love what we eat. And you apparently love life because that's the name of your company.
Yeah. And that's it. I love life. Dr. Kim loves life. I believe thoroughly that you love life, AJ, and we just want to help as many people as possible to move on from just living life. We want to really help people to be loving life.
Great. Well, thanks. Hey, how are you doing, Dr. Scheuer?
I'm doing wonderful. It's so wonderful to be on here. And I love being with you and I love what you've done. You've changed my life. And I love what Anthony does because he's changed my life. And we all hopefully will change many, many people's lives together.
Well, thank you. I still remember you because you are fluent in American Sign Language.
Yes, I love sign. And I love using my language as Spanish and sign language to bring what I've learned with lifestyle medicine and what's helped my life to other people.
So do you have any patients that sign? Because I just got an email from somebody that is deaf. I mean, you could see her, right?
Yes, absolutely. I have quite a few deaf patients and it's great. And it's so much fun. And I just love the communication. And it's also great in a crowded place. You don't have to play telephone. You can just sign. Everyone understands.
I love it or like in a library where you can't talk.
Yep.
That's fun. So how come you guys picked hypertension to talk about? Is that one of the most common things you see in your practice?
Absolutely. It is huge. And Anthony has a huge a slideshow to talk about why it's so important and what's going to go on.
Well, I can't.
Yeah, and when we jump into it, mostly that's sharing kind of things that people can start doing today. And we looked up some interesting facts and I was wondering also, why do we pick hypertension? I mean, I have personal reasons why I picked hypertension, and that was actually the first diagnosis of chronic condition that I ever received. Back when I was in college, I would go to donate blood. And, when you go to donate blood, they check a few things to make sure it's safe that you're donating your blood. And one of the things is blood pressure. And they would often tell me that my blood pressure was high and that I should have it checked. And of course I didn't. And then occasionally they would tell me my blood pressure is too high to donate. And I'm actually interested, Kim, like, is that because I would just shoot blood all over the room, or is it because I could really, like, I could have a cardiac event or a heart attack or something?
Absolutely. Yeah. So blood pressure is huge and it's undiagnosed in so many people because you don't feel it. It's asymptomatic. So, I mean, in the United States, we have about 1.2 million adults have hypertension. Almost 50% of adults have hypertension. Some of them know it, some of them don't. 1.3 billion people worldwide. And it is and I'm going into the talk a little bit, but it is a precursor for heart disease, which is the #1 cause of death in America. It affects strokes. It affects a whole bunch of things. So when you went for blood, they were worried If they take more blood, your pressure is going to go even higher. Or there's two different things that can happen. It can go higher, or you can drop your pressure, and that dropping it too much too fast in somebody who's got high blood pressure can be a problem too. And yeah, you would spurt.
And you know, when you say that almost 50%, right,
Yeah.
of the people have it, I think that means that everyone,
Yes.
including everyone who's watching today, either has high blood pressure or knows someone who has high blood pressure. And like you're saying, the dangerous part is that, you know, being called the silent killer is if you don't know you have high blood pressure, you're still at risk. It's not like a bruise or a rash that when it gets bigger, it gets more dangerous, right? Like it's always there, whether you feel it or not. And there are so many ways people can check their blood pressure. I mean, grocery stores often have a little booth you can sit in and just check your blood pressure, right? And you know, there are monitors for somebody who knows that they have high blood pressure and wants to check it more frequently. You can go for about $20. You can order it online, or you can get it in your pharmacy or even your grocery store, a blood pressure cuff that you can just hit the button and check your blood pressure at home to help monitor it, right?
And the important thing about blood pressure is, one is finding out you have it so you can take care of it. And two, there's so many things, and we're going to give you tips today to be able to take care of it that are not hard, and they're fun, some of them. Yeah. So that's the goal.
Some of them are a lot of fun.
Some of them are a lot of fun.
Well, I can't wait to hear. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. C.E. Grimm. He worked for Dr. Walter Kempner, and he says where there is no salt, there is no high blood pressure.
Wow. Yeah.
And so it's a big deal. We'll talk about that for sure.
I cannot wait to see this presentation.
Well, we will dig into it. While I start that up, do we want to, okay, we have a spot where we can talk about what are the risks and things as well, right? So I'm going to share our lovely slides that we created together. And
perfect.
Here we are. And AJ, we did this for you. Do you see the name of the presentation? Beat the Pressure.
Clever.
and you know, when we were doing that, you know, we first of all, we want to have fun, because this is a very, very serious topic, but there are really so many things that we can do about it. So it should not be a point of stress. And then the other thing is, as we were writing that, Dr. Kim, you started to tell me something about the you know, some of the nutrients in beets and how it improves arterial health. Is that right? If I understand?
Yeah, it's high with nitric oxide, and that affects the endothelium, which is the cell layer in the vessels that go through your body, which helps vasodilate, which opens up the vessels. So it drops your blood pressure. And beets are amazing. We'll talk about those during this.
And I just think they're delicious. So anyway.
And they're great in smoothies. If you have a green smoothie and don't like the color green, put a beet in. It'll make it taste great. Be red so it doesn't look green. It's kind of fun.
Awesome. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit more about what is high blood pressure? Because again, if somebody does stop in the grocery store, I mean, normally they have a chart on here, but on those machines, so we would know. But if somebody's checking it at home and they don't really have a chart, like, you know, what determines and where do the risks come in for different levels?
So let's first talk about blood pressure and what it is. So it's pressure in your vessels that go around your body. Vessels go everywhere in your body, and it's high pressure in those vessels. And that high pressure causes vessel damage, which is not good. And so you're damaging the vessels in your heart to cause heart attacks, in your brain, which can cause strokes, like a hemorrhagic stroke where you just pop it. It's kind of like having too much pressure in a tire tube. It just makes the tire tube weaker. And so what we consider normal is less than 120 systolic, which is the top number, which is when the heart compresses. That's the top number. So that's going to be higher. And so less than 120 is normal. And then as the heart relaxes, the diastolic, which is the bottom number, should be less than 80. And overall, lower is better. For example, athletes, sometimes smaller women like myself, my blood pressure runs maybe 90/60 regularly on a normal basis. And that's not too low. As long as you're not getting dizzy or having problems, the lower, the better. And for me, because I'm healthy, that's good. If you were on medicines that brought you too low, it can make you pass out. But you know,
So I just want, if you can say that again, because this is something that I think is so important, and that's another reason why we bring this topic up, because you do have to be responsible with this stuff, right? So I think what I heard you say is that if you're on medication and your
Yes.
blood pressure goes too low, it's very dangerous, as I understand it. But if you're not on medication and your blood pressure goes low and you don't feel signs of lightheaded or dizziness, then that's okay. So yeah, just help me understand. Okay.
Yeah, so as long as there's no pathologic reason, and if you're low and you're dizzy when you stand up or when you're moving or you're starting to pass out, then we need to find out what's really going on and why you're low. But otherwise, like for a person who's healthy or athletic, it's actually great to be low. And so the lower the better. If you have high blood pressure to begin with, and we give you meds and you come down, sometimes you feel odd until your body gets used to having lower blood pressure. But, and you can see on this guidelines that 120 to 129 is considered elevated. It's not considered high blood pressure, but you're still doing damage. So even elevated is doing damage. Now it's normal to go up at certain times. You're exercising, it can go up and then it comes down later. You're stressed, it goes up and comes down. So that ability to go up and down is very good. It's a fight or flight thing. Or if you know, so there's reasons to go up transiently. But if you're running 128 all night long while you're sleeping, that's not good. And we want to even get patients and people to start doing some of the tips that we're talking about, some of the strategies to bring down your blood pressure, because you're already causing some damage. And then as you go higher and higher, that's a problem.
And when you say it's not good, as I understand it, is the heart working harder because it has to basically, like, I think of like a bicycle pump, right?
Yeah.
Like if I do a nice, steady pace when I'm pumping up my bicycle tire, the tire inflates slowly. But if I want to put, like, if I don't have a road bike, but I understand people have road bikes, they have to put 100 pounds in their tire. So they have to pump that, to get so much pressure. And I just imagine that the heart is doing the same thing. Is it a matter of, I know there are events that can happen because of high blood pressure, and we should probably talk to us a little bit more about that. But is there also kind of wear and tear on the heart because it's just working so much harder?
Absolutely. So the heart can actually get too big because it's pushing so hard against that pressure around your body to try and get the blood through. And if your blood pressure is too high, like in your brain, you can have what's called a hemorrhagic stroke, where just like a tire, if you pump it too much, it can pop. It doesn't happen often, but it can. And that's going to cause blood to bleed out into your brain. That's not good. So we want to keep your blood pressure low and healthy. We want to keep the vessels from getting weakened. Like if you blow up a balloon too much, you get these weak spots, and that's not good. So that's why we want to keep your blood pressure a healthy range.
I see. Great. Thanks for explaining that. And then there's another thing that can happen, right? Like then there are plaques can dislodge.
Yes.
And they can cause clogging of arteries, and that can happen in the brain, as I understand it. And then that's called a ischemic stroke, I think.
Perfect.
And then if it happens in the heart, then that's basically a heart attack, right? And
right.
And
so
having the high pressure,
yeah.
Is that make it more likely that some of these plaques might dislodge and move free and
Yes.
And find their ways to these smaller vessels where it can't flow anymore, and it basically just causes like a traffic jam?
There's tons of reasons why that can happen, but blood pressure does increase your risk of that. And so what happens is, if a clot blocks the artery in your heart or any place in your body, everything after it dies. All the cells after it die because it's not getting the oxygen it needs, because the blood's not flowing. The blood carries the oxygen. And so that all dies, and you don't want to lose heart muscle. You don't want to lose brain function. You can even have that in the kidneys, because the kidneys filter out all the toxins, and there's little vessels and filtering systems in the kidneys, and the blood pressure is too high. It just damages those. So chronic kidney disease is a big problem in the States and around the world, but that's a lot to do with high blood pressure. So we need to manage this. Blood pressure affects so many things. And again, most of the time it's asymptomatic. As it gets worse and higher and higher and higher, you can get headaches, visual changes, things like that. We never want to get to that point. We want to treat you and get that number down way before that time happens.
Awesome. And I know we're gonna dive into that. I think before we dive into that, I think since you haven't been on, since neither of us have been on AJ's show in a little while, let's just kind of reintroduce. Like I'm always so fascinated by everyone who I meet in the world of lifestyle medicine, whole food, plant-based nutrition, veganism, basically anyone who's kind of stepped even slightly outside of what might be considered the mainstream is usually here on purpose. And to me, it's just an incredible community to be able to hang out with people who are here on purpose. And I know that's absolutely true for you and why you're doing what you do, why you've changed, to lifestyle medicine from family medicine. And maybe you can just share a little bit about that.
Sure, I'll briefly mention. So I was very, very, very thin until I was about 13 years old. And then I stopped growing up and I started growing out. And I struggled with weight all my life. And I thought I was healthy. I was a Milky Way vegetarian from college on. Like when I was younger, my father was a cardiologist and he switched us from whole milk to skim milk to make us healthier. But I kept growing and growing. But I thought I was healthy. And then I worked as a physician at a traditional family practice and I struggled with my weight and I struggled with some cholesterol issues and some other things. And then when I was 47, I realized that my mother, who's pictured here, had breast cancer when she was 48. And I thought, how am I going to prevent myself from getting breast cancer? A little late, only a year away. But I watched Forks Over Knives, read the China study, and learned all about how food affects our health. And then I got into lifestyle medicine. I got boarded in lifestyle medicine, changed my life. In the first month, because I hated anything green. I'd never had a salad. So a friend of mine made me a green smoothie every day for a month. My weight plummeted. My cholesterol plummeted. My energy went skyrocketed. My strength got better. It totally changed my life. And then I started using on my patients. So now, with the next slide, you can see what I learned was what lifestyle medicine is. And I now incorporate all the pillars of lifestyle medicine into my life. And some of it we will talk about today because it's so important. I now no longer, it was funny when you were talking about, do you ever think of being heavy again? Until I was 47, I yo-yoed. I tried every diet possible. I tried to become bulimic. I couldn't do it, thankfully. I tried different things. And now I will never go back. I just have so much fun and I love my life so much that I would never go back.
Awesome. Well, we're glad. And we're glad you've decided to change careers. And I know your patients, who I am fortunate enough to speak with sometimes, occasionally, some of them are thrilled that you've made that switch and that you're not going back as well. So I'm going to just reintroduce myself briefly. If I can figure out my slides. So I just want to mention, I care so deeply about this stuff because it's greatly improved my life. And the best description I can say is that, in addition to losing over 160 pounds, in addition to getting off medications, high blood pressure medication was the only medication that I ended up being on. And unfortunately for me, even on 2 different medications, one of those was a combination of a medication and a diuretic. So technically maybe I was on 3 medications and my blood pressure still stayed around 140 over 90. And all of these things that I was dealing with were enough to cause me to be denied a 20-year term life insurance policy at age 33. And that was a scary wake-up call for me. And once I figured out how to get healthy myself, which, I read Dr. Furman's book, Eat to Live, and I switched to a whole food plant-based diet, exclusively vegan whole food plant-based diet. And the weight fell off, and it fell off because I was getting healthy on the inside. I got off all my medications long before I finished losing, the 160 pounds. But my blood pressure, my cholesterol, and all of my other markers that were high, my liver function tests and triglycerides, they all went from being very in the danger zone to being ideal. And 2 years later, when I was 35, I was able to get that 20-year term life insurance policy, which made my family happy, that they would be taken care of in case something did happen to me. But again, I moved on from just kind of existing and living life to now completely loving life and doing all of these fun and amazing things, and got to raise my family in a way that I'm incredibly proud of, and got to be a very active part of my children's lives. And now my children are grown and moving out. I have a senior in high school, and my other is already out in college. And now my wife and I are still, we went for a trail run this morning. So we're still living life, even beyond the time that I was so excited to spend with my kids. So, I feel like we've talked a lot about the challenges of high blood pressure and some of the not so maybe uplifting stuff, the dangers and the things that can happen. But we mentioned earlier that there are a lot of really fun things that we can do that can also help us to live healthy and improve our blood pressure. And then the other thing I want to ask about after you start to touch on some of these is how doing some of these things that are improving blood pressure are also going to improve other aspects of life and other things that we deal with. So we're on to strategy number 1. And maybe I'll list the strategy, and then you can start to give us some of the details on some of this. So the first thing that you can do is eat a whole food plant-based diet. And I would add to that a delicious and colorful and beautiful and nutritious whole food plant-based diet. This is far from torture, right?
Oh my God, my meals, I eat a lot and I love what I eat, and it's delicious. So first thing first, eat, as you said, eat a whole food plant-based diet. There actually just came out a few days ago in a study in Circulation that showed that doctors, when they prescribe fruits and vegetables to their patients, when they actually give a prescription pad and places
write it on there,
to get them, that they will not only eat more produce, but they lost weight, decreased their hemoglobin A1C, which is a test that we use for diabetes. So decreased diabetes, but their blood pressure plummeted. They decreased their blood pressure significantly. So this is a multi-state study in America between 2014 and 2020. And so consuming 8 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day makes a huge difference, because there's a lot of different reasons. So one, the green leafy vegetables, the dark green leafy vegetables, are high in nitrates, and beets are too, which is why we say beat the pressure. And that improves the endothelial lining in your vessels, which causes you to vasodilate. So you have lower blood pressure. It pushes out foods that are high in saturated fats, because fruits and vegetables aren't high in saturated fats, and saturated fats increase viscosity, which is the thickness of the blood as it goes through, which increases blood pressure. And so that really, when you're replacing high viscous foods and high saturated fats foods, you decrease your blood pressure. It takes down sodium. So whole foods like plants don't have a lot of sodium, and sodium's huge in blood pressure, and it's huge in this country. Really, we're only supposed to have no more than 1,500 milligrams a day, which is a quarter of a teaspoon. And if you have high blood pressure, you can go down to 1,200 milligrams. And so you think that, when you use salt in cooking or use salt at the table, that's the biggest deal. In America, we have so many. Salt is more in things that are hidden, like in cheeses, which are high in saturated fat. So if you get rid of cheese, you're getting rid of the salt and the saturated fat. They're in packaged processed foods. They're hidden in bread. There's so much salt in bread. So if you switch over to fruits and vegetables, you'll get rid of that salt, which will help your blood pressure. Go ahead.
You know what always shocks me is when I buy canned beans.
Oh yeah.
Often I use my Instant Pot and I cook my own dried beans. And then of course, obviously I'm not putting any salt in it. But then when I go to the store, I mean, there are a couple of brands that are readily available of no salt. And it seems to me like they're coming out with more. But it's always fascinating to me when I pick up a can of beans that don't say anything about no or low sodium, like how much is in there. And I don't remember what it is, but of course, I mean, I would guess like some others, you know, when I eat beans, I eat the can of beans, right? Like whether I put it on top of my salad or whether I'm mixing it up with some steamed or cooked greens or something like that, or mixing it in with some salsa or that I would make or something. But the sodium is, I feel like it's like 20 or more times what the U.S. daily recommended allowance is. And from what Chef AJ said earlier, that she said that where there's no salt, you know, regions that don't use salt don't have high blood pressure. I mean, so we probably don't even want to be close to the, I don't know this, but this is a question I'll ask you, you know, how close we should be to the U.S. recommended daily allowance. But then the shocker is then you pick up the can of low sodium.
Yeah.
And it's like this much less. It's almost the same, at least some of the brands that I've looked at, and I'm not trying to call anyone out, but like I pick up the regular ones and then I pick up the low sodium ones, and it is less. So it is lower in sodium, but it's still so much more than I would want to have. And
So
to your point, it's just hiding in there.
Yeah, a great tip is whenever you're looking at a pack, first of all, the best thing is to get food that doesn't have packaging, so fruits and veggies. But if you're getting a packaged food, look at the calories and look at the milligrams of sodium. And if the milligrams of sodium are higher than the calories, you shouldn't have it, you know? And so be aware of that, because if you think that if you're on a 2,000 calorie diet, you know, then if there's more sodium or even the same amount of sodium, then you're getting 2,000 milligrams of sodium. You're way over what you should be getting right there. So that's an easy tip if you're going to go and do things. If you get a can of beans, which are great and they help bring down your blood pressure, and there is any sodium in it, wash them off. Wash it off. Wash it carefully beforehand. But avoiding, the less sodium you can have, the better.
And then I think, that's great to know. Thank you. And then and I think we've got 3 things here that I think are kind of more like tips. Like these are maybe things that we don't hear about. I personally drink hibiscus tea. You know, I don't use caffeine myself. So when we go out, I look for whatever herbal teas are available, and hibiscus teas are around. I didn't know that hibiscus tea could help to lower blood pressure. And then I really like what's explained here is it's actually the recipe, right? It sounds like this is a pretty strong hibiscus tea if we're using 5 tea bags and 2 cups of water.
So hibiscus has a lot of anthocyanins and antioxidants, which helps to improve your blood pressure and decrease your blood pressure. It's great. And there's actually a great hibiscus amla, and amla is Indian gooseberry tea that you can get, which I make all the time, which you just take the amla hibiscus in, and it's a double whammy to take down your blood pressure. So it's great. And you don't have to use the 5 tea bags. You just use 1 little scoop and mix it in water, and that works really well. Then these are what the studies are done by, and you do want to try and do what the studies do, which is using that much, or the amla.
Because that's what's kind of proven, right? That's what's been proven to be effective.
Right. And all these are evidence-based with studies. And, so adding the flax seeds every day, adding the vinegar makes a huge difference. There's whole grains make a huge difference to bring down blood pressure, because you're substituting in healthy things, which have lots of nutrients, for unhealthy things, which have saturated fat and no nutrients. And so beet juice, they're great to take down blood pressure. So, eat as healthy as you can, those are some of the things that I would do. And it's fun. You can find great foods and great recipes. On Chef AJ's channel, you can find unbelievable recipes.
Unlimited number of unbelievable recipes. Yeah. Okay. Well, should we go on to tip number 2?
Sure.
All right. And I'll let you introduce this one as well, because you can tell us who this character is with this beet, since we're talking all about beets today.
So that character is my significant other, Derek. And Derek, when I first met him, was 60 pounds heavier. He was on 5 meds, 2 for cholesterol, 3 for blood pressure. And in dating me, we had a rule: my house is clean, and I was eating clean. I had just started, and he, in the process, he's lost a ton of weight, the 60 pounds. His blood pressure has improved, his cholesterol has gone much better. And he's doing things here. What I love about this picture is he got physical, because getting physical, moving more, makes a difference on your blood pressure. And so he's doing something naturally physical. He's gardening. So he's not only moving and helping get his heart stronger to take down his blood pressure, decreasing his weight, decreasing his stress, but he's feeding us with those amazing beets there. So taking down your weight with getting physical, decreasing your stress, that makes a difference. They suggest 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week, which is about 30 minutes a day. And he's in there working on the dome at least 30 minutes a day. And even just losing 5 to 10 pounds can lower your blood pressure. So that is a picture that makes me happy, because that's special to me. He's even wearing a Walk with the Dog t-shirt, because that's one of the things that we do with our local community, is walk with patients, and we do that together to get people to be healthier, to take down their blood pressure.
That's awesome. And it's really nice. I love the example of gardening for exercise, because I read it, in books and things, and I love when the question comes up, what's the best form of exercise? Mm-hmm. And my favorite answer, of course there are a whole bunch of answers to that question. My favorite one is whichever one you enjoy the most. And I love that some people love to go walking, some people love to go running, some people love to go bike riding, some people like to hike, some people like to rock climb. Some people like to run on a treadmill while they're watching their favorite show or favorite episode of Chef AJ's show on their TV or on their computer. Some people walk on the computer while they're working, but there's just so many ways to get exercise in that can really be enjoyable and fun. And I love that, that this tip is here, because if someone has high blood pressure, this is almost an excuse or a reason to go out and to do something that you really enjoy, that's fun.
And always talk to your doctor before you start a physical activity, because depending on how sick you are, we may want to get you in slowly, but making it fun is so important. I love to hike, but I was traveling a lot and thinking, how am I going to do this? So I picked up jump roping. I haven't jumped rope since I was a kid, but oh my gosh, I'm having so much fun learning how to do it and trying tricks and things like that. And even just doing the first time, I got 5 in a row without catching my rope on my feet was just so much fun. So doing anything, whether you like to dance and just dancing like nobody's watching or whatever. Yeah. And even fidgeting. You see, I fidget a lot. Fidgeting is physical. So do that. That helps.
Yeah. Awesome. So tip number 2, or strategy number 2, is to get regular physical activity. Yeah. And the word regular is in there. And I think that's not something to be overlooked, because right. Of course we all know that the things that we do occasionally are not the things that are going to give us kind of permanent benefits or really lasting. And my favorite word is sustainability, right? Yeah. Whatever you do, you want to make it fun enough that you can do it regularly, so that you can kind of enjoy the benefits of those activities, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Should we move on to strategy number 3?
Sure.
Oh, I have to click. Oh, there we go. Beat the stress, and we spelled it wrong this time. No, we didn't. We spelled it correctly, but we didn't use our play on words to call it beat the stress. But yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit about how important stress management is?
stress management is so important. And it's not stress that increases your blood pressure. It's how we deal with stress. Okay. So how we deal with stress and how we react to stress is what increases our blood pressure. So if we get really tense and really nervous and it increases our cortisol, which increases our blood pressure. So because cortisol causes vasoconstriction, which is the vessels constricting down. We want to relax and let that happen. So a couple of things that you can do are breathing techniques. One of them is try 4-7-8, which is breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and out for 8. And that actually works on the parasympathetics, which opens up your vessels to decrease your blood pressure. Do that several times. I do it before I go to bed to help me go to sleep, which sleep is very important for stress management. I do it before something that makes me nervous, like talking to people and this kind of thing, or before a confrontation. Other things are doing a gratitude diary and being grateful for the good things in your life, learning to say no, which is really tough. But that's important. You need to put yourself and your health first so that you can help others. You can't get rid of stress. And again, it's not the stress that's the problem. It's how you react to the stress.
See, should we try this breathing exercise?
Sure.
Should we count it out? Because if I'm adding it up, it's only 7 and 8 is 15 and 4. It's about 20 seconds. And, you know, it is doing one cycle of this helpful? Or I know here it says to, or you mentioned to do this a couple of times in a row.
I do it. Yeah, I do it up
Maybe
to
we
5
should just
to
have
10.
everybody who's watching just take a break and to do it.
Yeah. So you just breathe in, hold, out. And you can do that a couple of times. And honestly, I can feel my heart rate slow when I do this. It's so interesting, especially when I started practicing it at night before I went to bed. It just slows down everything. And that takes down the stress, and it helps you react differently, be differently. A lot of people say if something happens and makes you stressed, before you react, count to 10. This is another way to do it, which is really helpful. And there's lots of breathing techniques out there. Personally, I love this one, but there's some other ones, and you'll find more information about it if you contact us for sure.
Yeah, and this one can be really interesting, because if you have your own blood pressure cuff, you can actually put it on, and you can do 3 or 4 cycles, or even if you're at the grocery store, you can sit on that machine, or at the pharmacy, or wherever wherever there's a blood pressure cuff that someone could have access to. They could go there, check their blood pressure. They could do 3 or 4 cycles of this and then check their blood pressure again. And really, you're still only at the machine for a total of maybe 3 minutes in order to do that, but to see how it changes. And then what I'm always interested in is, if you do this technique, how long does it stay low? And like, is doing this once per hour, or doing 2 cycles, every hour throughout the day, does that really help to kind of lower your average blood pressure over time? And I guess that's probably going to be individual, depending on the individual. But if someone is looking to really improve their blood pressure, that might be something that would be worth checking and trying out.
That is, and meditation is, and anything that you can do to slow down your brain, your parasympathetics, your heart rate, everything like that, that will take down your blood pressure. And I think it's going to be somewhat individual as how long it lasts, but it also, the more you practice, the better you do, the longer it will last.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Well, we'll move on to strategy number 4.
Okay. So we talked about what you can eat and what you can do, but avoiding is important too. So getting the toxins out. So stress is a toxin that increases blood pressure. Physical toxins also increase blood pressure. So if you smoke, stop smoking. That is the best thing you can do if you are a smoker is to quit smoking, because it not only decreases your blood pressure, but it also decreases your risk of cancers and heart disease and so many different things. So if you smoke, quit. And that, there are some studies out there that using cannabis increases your blood pressure. So be careful of what you're doing. Get rid of things like alcohol. From a lot of my patients, it's so interesting that a lot of my patients who've done everything right, but their blood pressure isn't coming down, when they get rid of alcohol for a month, their blood pressure normalizes. So that's not, you want to try and get rid of things that will increase your blood pressure. And alcohol is one of the biggest ones. Caffeine is really important. It increases your blood pressure. So avoiding limiting caffeine can make a huge difference in your blood pressure. Things that people don't even think about, like supplements, weight loss supplements, which have a lot of ephedrine and things like that, can be a real problem and increase your blood pressure. So I always check to see what people are using and putting in their body that increases blood pressure, and then getting rid of those toxins can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And I've heard, I don't know what the kind of mechanism is for alcohol and blood pressure, but the other thing I've heard people now, I mean, it's so fascinating, the world that we're in. Like my watch tells me my heart rate, and it tracks my heart rate all throughout the day. And then it tells me my heart rate variability, and it tells me my average resting heart rate, and it tells me my maximum heart rate, and it tells me all this information. And then when I sleep at night, it also tracks, and it uses my motion and my heart rate and like a pulse ox sensor to kind of assess the different stages of sleep that I'm in. And
Yep.
I've heard people like have done kind of self-experiments now. And this is, I'm such a fan of this. And this is not biohacking, or this is not trying to game the system. This is trying to learn how my body works. Because when we read articles, even if they're the most prestigious scientific journals, like that's really fascinating information, and it is evidence-based, and it's what's going to work for most people. But now that we've got some of these tools, we can really find out what works for me. And relating to alcohol specifically, I have some friends who drink occasionally, and as they track their sleep, they notice a tremendous difference in the quality of sleep after even just having 1 or 2 drinks in a day. So I'm not talking about going out and having a really great time and getting really drunk. I'm just talking about, like a glass or 2 of wine or a beer or 2 with dinner, and then, but that their sleep is so messed up that the next night. And who knows if one night of disrupted sleep per week is even going to like have any noticeable impact on your kind of daily life or quality of life or not. But
actually, there's studies out there that it does. So,
wow. Yeah. So I didn't even know if that was the case, but just the fact that the like being able to see real world evidence that there's something going on is just fascinating. And it's unique. We haven't had these kind of trackers. I mean, everyone who has an Apple Watch or a Garmin watch or a Fitbit, or, like there's just so many different, or a Whoop or a Ring, like there's just so many of these tools that people can use these days. And really, for people who want to optimize, or people who want to, work on prevention, or people who want to make measurable difference in their health, or in this case, in changing their blood pressure, there's so many tools available that can really help to show progress, and to find things that work. Because maybe if someone really enjoys having a glass of wine with dinner, and you don't notice a difference in your heart rate variability, or if you don't notice a difference in your sleep quality or something, then maybe that maybe you're within your kind of what works for you, what your acceptable parameters for you individually, regardless of what the studies say.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's different genetics. And so like caffeine, some people are slow absorbers and some people are fast. And even drinking caffeine at 8 o'clock in the morning for me would affect my blood pressure all day. Wow. And all night, my sleep at night. So,
and other people might be fine, right?
But you'll find that overall, generally, alcohol does affect blood pressure and caffeine does, but and certainly smoking does.
Okay, well, let's move on to another fun one, because we told everyone these tips are going to be fun, and avoiding things that people enjoy might not always be considered fun, but I think everyone likes spending time in nature.
spending time in nature is so important. And there's multiple reasons why it takes down blood pressure. One, it de-stresses you. Like for me, one of my favorite things is taking my dog out for a hike in nature. Two, the sun, the infrared from the sun improves endothelial function, which again, improves that vasodilation, which brings down blood pressure. It gets you grounded, it gets you balanced. You can see it here. I'm actually, this is me in Bhutan. The first day I got to Bhutan after an incredibly stressful travel experience. And just touching and hugging that tree and being out in nature rebalanced me within seconds after a significant period of time of stress. So it's great. So we want, having exposure to nature in the sun increases your nitric oxide, which causes the vasodilation. It's just so important. And it's fun. This is a good thing to get out, even if you're at work and you just go out and do a walk for 10 minutes in the middle of the day, you notice you feel better and it takes you down. So yeah, it's one of my favorite. I am a tree hugger.
Awesome.
Your stroke risk, your heart attack risk, everything.
Well, that's our tip number 5. But I was thinking, as I'm here and I have my water bottle in front of me, how about hydration? Because that's another question that I had, and I've heard that hydration can help with blood pressure, and in my very non-medical thinking mind, I think, well, if the body's made up a large portion of water, and my blood probably has a lot of water in it, and if I'm well hydrated, that would flow more smoothly. But does staying properly hydrated have an impact on blood pressure?
Huge effect. So it improves viscosity. It improves kidney function, which helps with your blood pressure. Kidney and hypertension are so interrelated. It helps get rid of some of those toxins we talked about. And toxins, external toxins are there too, but your cells are constantly functioning and making toxins that you have to get out of your body. So hydration is so important. Getting hydration, if you're not hydrated, you're vasoconstricting. You're pulling down, which increases your blood pressure so that you can get more blood up to your brain so you don't faint. So yes, hydration there's many, many other tips. We just kept it to 5 today. But there's plenty of
we
other.
Gave a bonus. We gave hydration. That's a bonus tip too.
Oh yes, one bonus. Don't forget your hydration.
Yeah. Yep. So here they are again. And also, we're going to have in the show notes, we have a PDF guide that has all of this and much more information in it that you can download for free. It's just something that we give away at Love Life Telehealth to anyone who comes over and signs up and downloads it, so that you can kind of keep it handy. The other kind of, I don't know, I think it's fun. And it's certainly beautiful. The other beautiful thing that we include in there are some recipes that help with lowering blood pressure. And we talked about that whole food plant-based. And one of them here is this Mediterranean lentil cucumber and tomato salad. And I know we didn't we talked about the sodium potential in beans, but I know that you've also explained that lentils and beans and legumes are just very beneficial as well, right?
And they have fiber, and we are so fiber deficient in this country. So lentils, actually, if you look at the blue zones, which are the regions around the world where you have the oldest living, healthiest people, centenarians, people over 100, they have tons of legumes, and it's great. And they take down their blood pressure, and you don't have the saturated fat, you don't have the salt in them. So it's delicious and nutritious and fun. Yep.
And then we have this farro and arugula salad, and again, there of course we've got greens here, and we've got beans in the chickpeas, and we also see our theme of the day. We see beets chopped up in there. It looks like beets mixed in with blueberries, and all of these things are so rich in nutrients and helpful for all kinds of just for living healthy.
That's a perfect meal. I mean, I have greens with every single meal because of the nitric oxide and the vasodilation that it does. And so you can have that. I can't even think of a more perfect meal, and I'm getting hungry. looking
And
at it.
farro sounds sometimes intimidating because it's not something that, you know, I grew up eating or even knowing about. But I get it at the store. It's right in my regular grocery store in the grains section, and it's in a bag. And I literally just cook it with some water on the stove, just like I would cook a dry bean or a rice or anything else. And I really like it. It's a very hearty kind of chewy grain, and it it has, you know, it tends to lend itself well towards more kind of savory flours than like a steel cut oat or something like that, at least for myself. Then here we've got the flaxseed that we touched on, and green smoothies, and I'm assuming that all this stuff went into the blender, or that's probably in the blender in this photo.
Yeah. And again, you're getting the flax, which takes down your blood pressure, the blueberries, which takes down your blood pressure, the spinach, which takes down your blood pressure. And when I said that I first went to this, I never liked anything green. My friend made me this green smoothie with cucumber and kale, and I didn't even know what kale was at that time. And I thought, oh, that's going to be terrible. I tasted it, and it actually tastes great. So this is a really great way to get some tasty hyper nutrients into your body, which help your blood pressure. And you can do that without seeing a doctor. You can already start treating yourself, and any concerns of blood pressure and cholesterol and things like that, you can start today with the tips we've given.
Yeah, exactly. And then this is our last picture of the day, and these are some you know, overnight oats, which are very easy to make and enjoyable, and also, you know, just a delicious summertime fruit salad. I mean, we're still getting fresh watermelons now here in New Jersey where I am, and it's just so delicious, like to really have a, you know, just to slice up a fresh watermelon and have, you know, just fresh seasonal fruits. Incredible.
It didn't mention it, but there are studies with watermelons that a large watermelon will take down your blood pressure.
Wow.
So,
Eating a large watermelon, you said?
mhm.
The whole thing?
They say a large amount of watermelon.
A large
And
amount.
I
You
don't
know,
know exactly what that is, but yeah, it's so delicious. It's so good for you. So definitely, great
it's
job.
interesting. I say that, and I'm going to stop sharing because that's our last slide that we have to share. So we're back now. But you know, I say a whole watermelon almost with surprise, but I ate a whole cantaloupe one day. You know, I came home and I just cut it in half and I scooped out the seeds, and then I ate the cantaloupe right out of the skin. So I didn't peel it or anything or chop it or anything.
Yeah.
And then I was still hungry, and then I ate the other half of the cantaloupe, and I'm like, what did I do? You know, did I eat a lot of food? Did I not eat a lot of food? And I looked it up, and it was about the equivalence in calories of about 1.5 bananas. And
Yeah.
that's an entire cantaloupe. So I asked, I was surprised when I said a whole watermelon. Of course, watermelons vary in sizes from like this to this, but it's very possible that eating an entire watermelon is actually, you know, I mean, so much of it is water, and
Right.
it's possible that it's not actually kind of overeating food if that becomes like a meal. And in this case, the cantaloupe was probably like a lunch or maybe a breakfast. I forget what it was, but I ate the whole entire thing, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a lot of calories, and it was certainly a lot of nutrients and water and hydrating and plus delicious.
So it's going to help you lose weight because it's bulk, it's fiber, it's nutrients, and it's water. It's great.
Yeah.
So that, and losing weight, remember we talked that, you know, just losing a couple of pounds will help your blood pressure. So you're giving your body such great nutrition by doing that. And I don't think I mean, I wouldn't want you to just eat cantaloupe or watermelon and that's it. I want you to have a good variety. We talk about the rainbow. You mentioned that in the beginning, the rainbow of colors. We want lots of different colors, so we have so many different nutrients in our bodies, which will take down your blood pressure. But it was great. It's great.
And I only did that once, Doc. So maybe
Hey,
one
I'd
of
much rather
but
you
it's
do
not like
that
not like a normal thing. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, honestly, I'd much rather you do that than, you know, a box of Milky Ways, which I used to do, you know.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, well, this was fun. Hopefully people, you know, are enjoying it and have you know, enjoyed the tips. And if you know someone who has high blood pressure, like, we would love for you to share this with them. and let them watch it and hopefully get some information. They can start doing that. And if you yourself have high blood pressure, we just hope it helps. Our goal is really to kind of to empower people to know things you can start doing yourself.
I want to make sure that people know that if you do have high blood pressure and you're on meds and you start doing some of this stuff, contact your doctor or us at Love Life Telehealth, because if you really do all of these things, your blood pressure can go too low because you're on too much meds. So we need to carefully and safely deprescribe, which is one of my favorite things, is take people off of medications.
Awesome.
I love that. Deprescribe. How many people deprescribe?
One of my favorite parts of being a doctor is getting people off of keeping people off of medicines, and it saves them the side effects of the medicines, the money, the just having to be on it. Now, medicines are great. I'm a doctor. If you need them, use them, but I want you to use the least that works.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I love.
I was just going to add to what you said, AJ, because you're right. I've only had doctors tell me once you go on blood pressure medication, you're on it for the rest of your life. Or once you go on your cholesterol medication, you're going to be on that for the rest of your life. And it's a refreshing message to hear that doesn't always have to be the case. I mean, it's always the risk reward, right? Sometimes the benefit outweighs the risk of using those things, but there are other things that we can do to just use the minimal amounts and use them when appropriate. And that's fantastic.
There were so many great takeaways. A few things you said that I really appreciated is that if your blood pressure is naturally low without medication, it's not necessarily too low, because people get freaked out about the numbers because most doctors aren't used to normal numbers. So when somebody like me walks in with 90/60, they're like, oh, like they think it's a disease,
Yeah. Meanwhile, you're thriving and you probably just got done exercising and stretching and everything before you were at the doctor's anyway, right?
What's funny is it actually goes up when they take it. Like a lot of times it'll be like, and it's still so low. Even when mine goes up because I'm nervous, it's like let's see what it was today. It was like 110/80, but that's still, they go, oh, your blood pressure is great. I go, that's not my blood pressure.
But that probably does save you the conversation or the lecture for why is your blood pressure so low? You save them some heartache by letting it go up a little bit with that when they're checking it for you.
I love how you said that alcohol can raise blood pressure. Pot, a lot of people take pot every night. They don't think about the effect of the blood pressure.
Yeah.
I mean,
you want to put the least in your body that you need. You want only healthy stuff if you can, or as healthy as you can be. You still can have fun. I love my life. I always thought, I was a cheeseaholic, and I thought, oh my God, I can't give up cheese. I would never go back because I feel so great. So your health is so much more fun than not having it.
Yeah. So, coffee is one of those things that some of the doctors, even on the show, they think it's so great. Anthony, you mentioned you don't drink caffeine. I don't either.
Right.
Yeah, I don't, because when I was losing weight, it kind of sent me on an energy roller coaster when I was using caffeine. So I would have this energy, and then as soon as it would start to wear off, I would think I was hungry, and I would go and start snacking or eating, or think I need, or think I was. So for me, it was just nice to be on that even keel so that I didn't have those things that made me feel like I was hungry as I was trying to, lose weight and learn how to, eat a different kind of diet style. So that's why I gave it up. And now kind of, I just don't have a reason to go back to it. And I wonder if it would still kind of spark some cravings as it wore off. So
that's a great way to explain it, because I always find that a lot of the people I've worked with that struggle with weight have the caffeine habit. But I was just curious, do you see it affect blood pressure considerably, or it's one of the more benign things?
It depends on the person. So that's part of your genetics. And so it's not even the caffeine in the coffee. There's another thing in the coffee that can affect blood pressure in certain people. So that's why I suggest, if you don't drink coffee to begin with, don't start it. I mean, there's lots of really good things in coffee because it is a bean. And so it has a lot of good chemicals in it and stuff, and phytochemicals and things. But if you don't drink it, don't start it. If you do drink it and then do an experiment and get off of it for a month and see what happens. And if it didn't affect your blood pressure, okay. If it did, or affect your cravings, or affect or affect your sleep, then okay, because you may be a fast metabolizer, which is actually, it's probably not an issue. But for me with my genetics, I knew that intuitively, but then I did a genetic study and I was like, oh, I have issues with coffee and caffeine. So it was interesting.
I've heard one of the doctors say it can raise exogenous cholesterol. I don't know what the word exogenous means in terms of cholesterol.
Outside. So exogenous is outside. So we make our own cholesterol. Our livers make as much cholesterol as we need. There are, in some people, coffee, and especially if you brew it in a way where you don't filter it, it can increase exogenous cholesterol. And so that's not good because we don't want extra cholesterol that we don't need in our bodies.
Right.
So if you drink coffee, the best way is filter it. French press, even if it's delicious, is not the better way to drink it.
Right. Are you guys familiar with the Tarahumara Indians?
Yes.
They have very good blood pressure.
Don't they?
Yeah.
They're amazing. And they eat very simply, but there's no saturated fat. It's grains and I think lentils too, some kind of legume, grains and legume. And they live off of that. And they run hundreds of miles without any issues. It's part of their society and it's great.
I didn't even know anything about their diet, but I've read about them for the running. These are people who basically, they can run all day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me.
And they don't have to stop for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. They don't pull into the Starbucks run through.
Oh, isn't that funny? I wouldn't be surprised if they don't invent that one of these days.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I'm sorry, AJ.
Oh, go
it's
ahead,
interesting with coffee. I've had people who get off coffee and have more energy because they're not doing that up down thing. They're much more stable. So, it's worth checking into for you.
I don't know how we can access this, but Dr. Linda Carney gave a talk once about 17 reasons caffeine can make it hard to lose weight. But Anthony, the way you just articulated it made so much sense to me why people struggle with that caffeine roller coaster when they're trying to lose weight, and because you mistook it for hunger, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, it was a really big deal for me, especially when I had kind of bad habits. I had bad go-tos when I would get hungry and want a snack, like they weren't great choices. So I didn't need any, any nudges to get a snack. I just wanted to kind of avoid them.
When you talk about exercise and you said what to do and you said the one you love the most, I thought you were going to say the best exercise is the one that you'll actually do.
Well, I think I said it in an indirect way, but what you said is more direct, right? Because we're trying to infer that if you love doing it, that you'll make the time to do it. But yes, you're correct. It's the one that you actually do, because if my favorite exercise is something that, like, let's say my favorite exercise is snowboarding, because I love to snowboard, but I really only get a chance to do that maybe, I don't know, 10 or 20 times per year. Like, that's not really going to help me.
Yeah, exactly. So, this was a wonderful presentation. You guys have work great together. I'm curious how people can get in touch with you, Dr. Scheuer, if they want to consult, or with one of the other doctors. Most of you have all the states covered now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All the states in DC. Yeah. And I'll let Anthony tell you because he's
okay. Yeah. So there are 10 doctors and they're available to see patients in all 50 states, and they will also do international consultations. But again, those are not medical appointments because they can't order any labs or any
prescription
or prescribe any medications internationally. But in the United States, anyone can have access to a doctor who practices lifestyle medicine and can help people to treat the root cause of disease. And if you do require lab work, we have national accounts with Quest and LabCorp, so you can find a lab that's near you, and the doctor just sends the order and you go get your labs done just like your local doctor would. And if someone does require prescription medications, if they're maybe scaling down doses, or even if you require a new prescription, the doctor can just order that. We're plugged in with the whole entire pharmacy network, so that you would then just go to your local pharmacy and pick it up just like you would from any other doctor. The only difference is that it's all telemedicine, so you don't get to, your doctor doesn't get to listen to your heart or touch you. So they can treat a lot of conditions, but maybe not quite everything. But if anyone has a question, we have a number right on the front page of our website. You just give a call and we can help people to decide if it's appropriate or not for an appointment. And the website there is love.life/telehealth.
Great, thank you. I look forward to the day that you can get dental telehealth. There's nothing I dislike more than going to the dentist.
Yeah, that's going to be a trick, but you know what? With this robotics and things that are coming and these remote systems, I see videos of people doing remote surgeries, and it's possible the dentist might send you something to attach to your head and do the dentistry remotely at some point in the future as well. And that would be scary to me, especially involving drills and sharp things.
Well, you never
Head.
Well, thank you so much, Anthony, and thank you so much, Dr. Scheuer.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
It's a pleasure to be on.
It
Yeah,
was
Thank
great.
you for
it was fun.
Hope to have you back, and thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow for Chef Sharia Moore. She's going to be making a beet hummus, red velvet chocolate muffins with beets and a strawberry vinaigrette and more. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.